also, but you paid what you thought was the worth of it. So the Saints think Michael Thomas is worth $100 million, $65 million guaranteed. Is that a big gamble? Is he worth that much?
Well, is he worth it? I mean, that's what, like you said, it's worth what it's worth. Worth what he's worth. I say good for Michael Thomas. I like when players get the money. It's a tough physical game. So I don't, I guess no player is really worth that. I mean, you don't want to give him all that money and then see him go down with an injury. It's a big risk, a lot of liability. But like you said, that's what the market dictates. And if Michael Thomas and the Saints can afford to earn $100 million, then so be it. I mean, shouldn't really shock anybody or faze anybody. I mean, that's the price to play a very violent game, and your career could end at any time on any hit. So, I think good for him. I think as far as the Saints go, it eliminates a potential distraction by having him not in camp or being unhappy with what he was making. So now he gets his money. He's happy. The Saints are happy, and now you just cross your fingers and hope he can play in all 16 games and beyond. It's interesting because then you look at the trickle-down effect that has, and you have a receiver in Dallas, Amari Cooper, who is looking for a new contract. He's on the final year of his deal, and what does that do to the Cowboys' thinking and Cooper's thinking when you give Michael Thomas that kind of money? I don't think Cooper's going to get $100 million, but it certainly gives them a platform that they can refer to and say, well, he's getting that. I should get X. And it's going to be very high, very costly amount of money that they're going to give Cooper. And then they have Dak Prescott, who needs a new contract, and Ezekiel Elliott is holding out of camp looking for a new deal. So, you look at how this affects, that sort of a situation with Amari Cooper, and I'm sure other receivers as well. How does that impact them? I know the Eagles, and they have Alshon Jeffrey on the roster, who next year is going to have almost a $16 million cap hit for a receiver who will be about 30 years old. And there's some speculation that this Jeffrey may not be here next year because of that cap hit number. And maybe he even gets traded this year. I doubt that would happen, but once these players start getting that kind of money, then you have to look at the ramifications on the rest of your roster. And Michael Thomas taking up $100 million is going to have a hit and an effect on some other positions on that team where you can't pay some guys what you'd want to pay them.
You're absolutely right. And Mo, what are your thoughts? And then we also talk about the Chargers. The Chargers are looking at a contract with Myles Grant. When the bar is set, the bar is set. It doesn't matter really who sets it, but once that bar is set, it is set. $100 million too much for Thomas down there in the Saints, Mo?
Well, I mean, the other thing it does is it hurts a team if they're looking to have to franchise tag their wide receiver now, because that, when you take those averages, that definitely bumps the average up a lot. But, I mean, like I said, it's all about the value and the perception to the team. Does Michael Thomas help that team win football games, and is he a guy that fans would be outraged if he was gone? I think so. So I think when you look at it, for the Saints, they did what they had to do, and like Ed said, it's not a distraction now, because let's be honest, Dallas looks like a mess right now with what's going on with Ezekiel Elliott, Jerry Jones saying he's not going to, pay a running back that type, break the bank for a running back. Especially for a guy who's got all kinds of off the field issues like Elliott. You're going to have to pay Amari Cooper. Like you said, you're going to have to pay Dak Prescott. Dallas is about to be in football salary cap hell. So, the Saints got this deal done early. They got it over with. Everybody's happy, and the Saints know that their window is closing quickly with Drew Brees, so they did what they have to do to continue to put the team around him. I don't have an issue with the money. It'll be interesting, though, to see what guys like Odell Beckham Jr. and, a guy the Colts are going to have to pay coming up before too long, in T.Y. Hilton, to see what kind of money those guys will command then at that point.
Well, here's what I predict. The football gods are going to shine down on the Colts, and the Colts are going to meet the Saints in Miami this year. It's already done. It's already said. It's already settled. We'll see what happens. Mo, you're very familiar with Cameron Meredith, obviously, for covering the Bears. He signs with the Patriots. I have more bigger news with the Patriots. The Patriots quarterback Tom Brady, 42 years old today, one of the longest running, if you will, maybe. We talked about Doug Flutie and stuff earlier, but the but the Patriots just keep adding depth. I mean, the Patriots are a thorn in my side as a Colts fan, but as I've said before, I'm the first guy to step up and say, job well done. And as we know the story about Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady. Tom Brady, a young kid from Michigan, to play for Michigan, popped in on the Super Bowl because Drew Bledsoe got injured. I think maybe Kraft and Belichick saw something in a young quarterback that nobody else saw, and he's not looked back since. 42 years old. How much longer do we have to deal with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots? And I mean that with much love.
I think until Giselle says it's time to come home. I think that's how long Tom Brady's career will last, until Giselle says, hey, you've had enough, it's time to come home. That's how long Tom's going to play. I think Tom would play till 50 if given the opportunity or the chance. But, it's amazing how they continue just to plug holes every year. It's never really the same roster. They find guys, whether, they've taken other teams, cast-offs, guys that nobody wanted, or gotten rid of players that were, a tick before their prime was over, and got rid of them at the right time. Belichick continues to pull those strings in the right way. It definitely hasn't been a franchise without bumps in the road, because we've seen those, especially over the last couple of years, reports between Belichick and Brady or Kraft and Belichick. So it's definitely not been without its problems, but you can't argue with the success model that this team has put around. They always find guys to plug in those holes, and maybe it's not the prettiest thing in the world to watch when it comes to a football game, but they continue to win and get it done when it counts, especially come playoff time. So I think Brady plays probably 2 or 3 more years. You would have thought that the right time to retire would have been after winning another Super Bowl, but it doesn't seem like he's slowing down one bit.
Ed, do you have any thoughts on Tom Brady?
Well, I know the Patriots are coming to Philadelphia this year. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see if Brady gets through a whole year. I mean, I know he won the Super Bowl last year. He looked kind of slow to get up when he took a hit. I know he keeps himself in great shape. So I don't know. I think at some point you're going to hit that diminishing returns button. And Mo's right. I'm surprised he didn't retire after the Super Bowl. But it's tough. It's tough to leave when you're a competitor and you love that camaraderie and that locker room vibe that you get, the roar of the crowd. I mean, that's a tough thing to give up, especially when you've had all the success that he's had. But you look at that franchise, and the one constant's been coach and quarterback. And when you look around the league, that's kind of a model I think that other teams would like to emulate. And you look at Freddie Kitchens and Baker Mayfield. Can they be, a duo that can stay together for a nice little run of, you want to start, maybe 5 years anyway, but can they have that kind of run? Or even like Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz in Philadelphia, and around the league, maybe in Arizona, maybe Kyler Murray and Kingsbury kind of develop that connection that will have some success. So that's kind of what I take away from the Patriots is, they plug in all these extra pieces, but the one constant's been a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback, and maybe some other organizations will strive for that. We'll have to wait and see. But I just want to circle back real quick, Tom, to the running back situation in Indianapolis with Spencer Ware.
Sure.
I think that's you can't underrate that. You look at guys that are out there like Garrett Blunt and Jay Ajayi, who Frank Reich has familiarity with. Those two guys helped Reich win a Super Bowl in Philly as the offensive coordinator. So I would expect that if they have anything left, those two guys, and I know Ajayi has had the knee issues throughout his career, but he's been deemed healthy from what I understand. But it'd be interesting to see if they bring them in for a workout. And then in Philadelphia, they have 7 running backs on this roster who I think all of them could be on an NFL roster who aren't going to be. So maybe the Colts will wait and see what shakes loose, once the cutdowns are made. And I know, like I said, in Philly, they've got 7 of them, and they're not going to keep 7. They may keep 5, but it could be 4, and that's going to shake free, 2 or 3 guys that can really help a team. And Frank Reich is familiar with Philadelphia, so it's going to be real interesting, I think, to keep an eye on what they do at that spot.
No, you're absolutely right. And Mo, chime in on that on Spencer Ware. We didn't talk much about that, but we know Frank likes his tight ends, and we just signed another tight end. Jack Doyle obviously is the beast. It's the workload there, and we saw last year where they really utilized that running back by committee. And a lot of times that tight end kind of slipped in and filled in for that running back role. And now that we have a healthy Jack Doyle, fingers crossed that he's been prone to injury, so hopefully he stays healthy. But heard him on local radio this week, said he feels better than he ever has. But Spencer Ware going on the PUP list was big news for the Colts there, Mo.
Yeah, but I think the Colts liked a lot what they saw in Marlon Mack last year, and I think they liked the change of pace with Hines. And I think you're going to see Paris Campbell be used a lot like Tyreek Hill, where you'll see some running plays for him. You'll see some sweeps and end arounds with Paris Campbell. So I think that they're going to use him a lot in that way too, or like a Darren Sproles type too. So I think that while the Ware loss will be tough, I do think the Colts will probably pick up somebody else. But I think you'll see Paris Campbell maybe pick up some of that load, doing some of those things that Tyreek Hill or Darren Sproles does.
Guys, real quickly, while we've got a few more minutes, we'll start with you, Ed. The Hall of Fame game on Thursday, yeah, we like to joke around and say it doesn't mean anything, but it was a preseason game, and it was the first of the preseason games. And, I don't know what we learned from there, but one of the things that we saw was the Broncos QB, Drew Lock, really struggled. And, of course, they got the Seahawks coming up. And then the Falcons, you look at their quarterback situation. I mean, they may even have a backup quarterback controversy because, I mean, that late loss there in the Hall of Fame game to the Broncos may not mean anything in the big scheme of things, but I think it showed us that there's some holes with the Broncos, and Drew Lock, maybe he's still got some work to do.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest, I didn't see a single snap of that game. I mean, I think the Hall of Fame game would hold more allure if it was maybe the third preseason game where the starters typically play more. I don't think either starting quarterback played in that game, Matt Ryan or Joe Flacco.
They did not. No, they didn't.
And but I come at it from a different perspective though. I'm every day at the Eagles camp. Now, obviously I'm not going to be there here for a couple days, but I'm every day at the Eagles camp. I'm watching football every single day in the hot sun for 2-3 hours and talking to players. And when I go home, especially that early of a game, when teams have only been in camp for maybe 10 days, I think those two teams might have started camp early because of that Hall of Fame game. But, I see enough sloppiness in practice, and I see enough football in practice, and I don't feel the need to kind of sit down and watch other teams, third and fourth string players go head-to-head. I did see the interview with Ed Reed, which I thought was terrific. I mean, I was a big fan of Ed Reed when he played. He's certainly deserving of a spot in the Hall of Fame, but I didn't see anything else, but that's just my perspective. I know fans get a little excited about that because football's back and all that, but really for me, it kind of has been back for about almost at least 10 days with the Eagles camp. So I wasn't as excited to go home and flip on the TV and watch more football.
Oh, come on! It's your job, man. Come on.
I know.
All right, Mo,
and it'll ramp up once the preseason, and I'm not saying I'm against preseason. Everybody sees preseason. I think starts this week, and the Eagles play the Titans on Thursday night, and I'll be there for that game. And I'll be at all four of their preseason games. That's enough preseason football for me. But I'll pay attention. I read. I don't need to watch a game.
Well, you read. You're doing a lot better than I can do. Mo, we'll give the final word to you. Final thoughts on the. We always say every year the preseason is too long. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But what is your final thoughts, words of wisdom before we have to wrap it up, put a bow on it?
Well, I mean, with Drew Lock that you mentioned, you talk about a guy who didn't call a play in a huddle his entire college career, and now he's stepping into the NFL where everybody's bigger, faster, stronger, more talented, and is learning to do something basically from scratch. So, I think the kid's got a lot of talent. I think give him some time, and we'll see a pretty decent NFL quarterback, maybe a starter, maybe not. But he's got a long way to go, just because it's a huge difference from never having to call a play in college to now you're running this entire offense calling the plays. So while it was sloppy and he looked messy, I think that he's a guy who has enough talent that will continue to improve throughout. So a year or two from now, we could be talking a much different story. So preseason usually sucks, but at least football's back.
Oh, yes, that's right. Can I get